We are all here for a purpose, and it's important to know what your purpose is. Everyone has a different purpose. So when you take your passion and you pair that with what you're good at, you can actually make a difference, and you can make a living from it, and you can help other people at the same time. I want to highlight other people to know what their passion is and what they're good at. Pair the two to make their dreams come true and share that with the world. Welcome to Small Business Big Dreams. I am your host, Estee Stein, and today I am interviewing Susan Hanover of Susan Hanover Designs. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Estee.
How are you?
I'm good. It's so exciting to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on my show. This is so crazy. Okay, so we've known each other for a really long time.
And we're old friends.
Old friends,
Yeah.
but you're not actually from here, right?
That's correct.
Okay, where are you from?
I'm from South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in South Africa. I had a beautiful childhood over there. I grew up in a very tight-knit Jewish community. And when I was 12 years old, we moved as a family to live in Israel. And that's when my life changed dramatically.
Wow, was that a big adjustment for
A
you?
huge adjustment.
Did you know how to speak the language?
No, there was language barriers, cultural barriers. It was pretty much a sink or swim situation. And we swam because we had no choice. And we learned to adapt and adjust. And I'm talking about my sisters and I. We were very young. We learned independence from a very, very young age.
How many sisters do you have?
I have two sisters. I was 11. My one sister was 9, and my younger sister was 2. And my parents were very caught up in this new immigration era, or journey, I should say. And we really had to.
And how long
we had to figure it out on our own, and we did.
And when you say figure it out on your own, did you go to the army?
Yeah, I went to high school. I mean, I learned the language. It took years, but we did okay. And I went to the army. I served in the army there for 2 years and did my undergrad.
And then, so how'd you get here?
So, well, it wasn't planned.
You wanted to stay in Israel?
Yeah, I figured I went to law school. I'd taken the bar.
You went to law school in Israel?
Yeah, I'd taken the bar there, and I was working as an attorney. I was a labor lawyer. I was building my career. I was working for a big trade union. At this time, I felt fully Israeli.
How old were you?
I was in my mid-20s, probably, when I started my career.
Okay.
And I met my husband to be in my late 20s. He's from New York, but he was living in Israel at the time. And we met and got married eventually, and he had an opportunity in New York, and he really wanted to come back. I mean, it was a mutual decision, but I supported his choice, and he wanted to move back here, and I'd really never been. I mean, I'd been to the States maybe for a week once, and
So you'd never been here?
I'd been here. I came with David when we'd met early on, when we first started dating. Maybe we came for like a week to 10 days.
What'd you think about this place?
It felt okay. It felt very familiar. I think it's because I'd gone through so much change. I mean, we moved to Israel again as a teenager. We also moved back to South Africa in my mid-teens for a year or two. I was very adaptable, and I was very used to change. And moving to the States didn't seem that hard to me. There was no language barrier. Moving to New York felt exciting, and straight away I felt like there were so many foreigners. There were so many different languages, different kinds of food, any food I wanted. I mean, if I wanted Israeli food, I could find it. If I wanted South African food, I could find it. So it was an exciting time. But it was, there were stresses. We can talk about it.
Okay, like?
Well, I guess career stresses for me. I mean, I was caught up. I had a baby. I was caught up in being a mom in the first year, of course. But from very early on moving here, I knew that I had to do something with my career. I'd spent many years building my law career and studying, and money invested in it, and energy.
And so when you got here, were you going to then have to take the bar again?
Right, well, that was my
work?
plan. My plan was to stay home with my baby for a year and then start tackling my career, which I started doing, when my son was about 6 months old. And I learned very quickly that it was going to be a very difficult process. They wanted me to go back to law school for a year, and then, of course, I'd have to sit for the New York bar. And this was going to be, honestly, it was going to be very expensive for us as a young couple to manage. Going back to law school, paying for law school, childcare, sitting again for the bar, and then finding some sort of a job. And I was very determined. I wanted to work, and I wanted a career, but I wanted to be around for my kid. I wanted more children. And maybe I didn't plan on being a stay-at-home mom, but I never envisioned working like to the wee hours of the morning and being one of that. I never envisioned being a corporate lawyer where I was beholden to a big law firm.
So then how did you get into jewelry design?
So I was pretty despondent. I was a little bit at a crossroads. I really did not know what to do. So what did I do? I maneuvered myself into a couple of paralegal jobs at the time, but it just wasn't paying. It wasn't paying. By the time I paid for childcare, I wasn't bringing home anything. And it was very deadening to me. I mean, I trained as an attorney, so to put myself in a position of being a paralegal was deflating. And I pretty much realized at the time that I wanted to start my own business. That started becoming a goal for me. And it didn't seem crazy, because I remember at the time my husband thought I was insane. And I talked to some of my girlfriends and they'd be like, what do you know about business? You didn't do an MBA. And I never thought of it that way. I just thought of it more as simple. I felt like if I can find a product, I can market it, and then I can sell it, and then I have a business. It just seemed like ABC. I didn't think of building a business plan. I didn't have a grand plan, but I needed a product.
Now, where did this come from? Like, was it your mother's influence, your father's influence? Who influenced you with this confidence, and like that you knew, like, oh, I'll just find something and I'll just sell it and I'll market it, and where did those things come from?
Well, I come from a family of, it's interesting you asked me that question, because I come from a family of very strong entrepreneurship. Very strong. My dad is, and well, he's obviously not retired, he's elderly, but he was this very successful entrepreneur, as were many of my cousins in South Africa.
What did your dad do when you say he was a successful entrepreneur?
He was, what did he do? He had what you call in those days, you're talking about the 70s and 80s in South Africa, he had a mail order business.
Okay.
So a catalog business mail.
Snail mail, like comes in the mail.
Of course, in those days.
No, I don't know. I don't even know if the audience, like, I don't know if people even know what snail mail is. You know, it's not email.
Business, but
it's paper, actual paper.
It was in effect. I mean, I guess it was. I mean, it scaled into a relatively big business, but it was all in South Africa.
Wow.
And and I'd watched my father growing up doing this, and it gave him so many. First of all, he took terrific joy from this. He was very joyful, my father, and he was always excited, and it gave him a lot of choices. It gave him an opportunity to move his entire family to a different country. And he would never have been able to do any of those things if he hadn't been an entrepreneur. So it didn't seem that crazy to me at the time, although everybody thought I was.
Because it was familiar to you. You had seen it, you saw it in action.
And I'd seen it in action, and then I'd seen that it didn't seem that hard. It probably was very hard. Right. I don't know. I wasn't privy to their early years as a couple, as a young married couple. But
so tell me how you got into jewelry.
Well, it was really, it wasn't planned. Honestly, it wasn't planned. I've always been quite creative. I was an art student in high school, but I'm not going to say I'm the most creative person out there. I've met many designers along my journey who are way more creative than me and who do just incredible work. So I never put myself in that category. But I always had a lot of common sense, and I've always been pretty, once I decided I was going to start a business, I was commercial from day one. So if I had to choose between creativity and commercial, I mean, I would say I veered towards the commercial.
So explain that, because between creativity and commercial, because it doesn't, I'm not understanding the commercial part versus the creative part.
I never sacrificed, it was always the bottom line for me. I had to have the margins. So if I was
uber focused on business,
Uber on those margins.
So so what you're saying is a creative piece versus a commercial piece. So something that sells commercially versus a unique piece that's creative.
No. I mean, you could get lost in creativity, and you could be so focused on creating the most beautiful, creative, insanely stunning piece out there. But if your bottom line's not there, you don't have a business. So I never, ever got lost in that.
And how did you know? I
was always hyper aware.
But how did you get to that? Like, in other words, you made a piece and it didn't sell? Like, what does that mean?
Well, I would make a piece and we would invest in this piece. And if I saw that the price for this piece, the product, the initial pricing was just going up and up, the manufacturing, we'd have to be creative in a different way, commercially creative, a different stone, less metal, less gold. Maybe the piece would not have been the most beautiful as envisioned.
I see.
But it would have. It turned out to be more of a commercial viable piece.
Right. More practical.
And I have seen, and I always put this out there when I speak to young designers who come to me and ask me these questions. Keep your eye on the bottom line, because I saw too many stories, especially post 2008, 2009, where designers just couldn't stay in business because, you know, things, the market changed and things got lost along the way.
So tell me, getting to that,
Yeah.
tell me, like, what was like a big challenge for you? Was it COVID? Was it the market crash? Like, where in your business did you find a huge challenge?
I think the market, well, maybe I should talk about the journey, how we got to yeah, I think we should start. So once I decided I was going to build a business around jewelry, really. I mean, I basically just made a piece myself and wore it one day, and somebody came to me and said, oh, I love that piece, where can I buy it? And I said, actually, I made it. And she said, oh, I'd love to buy it from you. And I quickly, ching, 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 I did the math in my head, added a few extra dollars, and she was thrilled and I was thrilled. And that's the meeting, right? That's business. And there's a buy and there's a supply and there's a meeting. And I ran home that day and my head was just buzzing. And I was like, maybe I have a product. Maybe this could work. And I took
crazy.
Yeah, I took myself off to a bead store. I spent a couple of $100s on supplies and learned a little bit of the craft in the store with the guy who owned the store. And I ran home and I started creating. And I did have a very strong aesthetic sense, and I believe I always have had, and I've had confidence in it. Like, I always feel like I know it looks good. And
so then how did you get your buyers?
So I started off like making I'm making maybe 10, I remember making 12 pieces, showing it to my friends. And my mom was there with me at the time, and she oohed and ahed, and it just gave me a little bit of confidence and just to put it out there and show my friends. And people were supportive, thank God, because you need that confidence in the beginning. You need some sort of like recognition for your craft or for what you're doing, and or affirmation rather. And I started just walking into local stores in my neighborhood with 12 to 15 pieces and walking in. I mean, I had severe imposter syndrome. I was like, here I am, like, presenting myself as a designer where I'm really not. I mean, I had no formal training, but I made some pieces and I presented myself as such, and people were amazing. I mean, they gave me so much confidence, and it really did propel me forward. And I did that. I mean, I had a baby at the time, my third baby by now, and no childcare. I mean, this was a one salary household, so I didn't have the comfort of relying on childcare or anything like that. So I really was motivated to make it.
Right, right.
So,
and then once you sold a few, so your pieces got sold into stores, but how did you get your own?
Tiny stores. I'm talking about like tiny orders. Okay. And I'd get an order, I'd run home, I'd set up a studio in my attic, I'd make the pieces and deliver it in like 3 weeks. So maybe I had like maybe 5 or 6 stores, maybe.
Wow.
And then just, you know, in business or in entrepreneurship, magical things happen. I really believe that. If you're open, the universe is going to throw things at you, and you just have to receive it.
I love that.
You do?
Yeah, that's magical.
You have to be, it's magic, but you have to be open to receive, because things are coming at you all the time, but you have to receive them. I mean, I always tell my kids that. Yeah, I always tell my kids that. There's so much out there, but
was there somebody that inspired you? I mean, aside from your father for the work ethic and starting up the business, but once you got into jewelry design, was there somebody that you emulated or looked up to? Was there somebody in the business or even another business?
Not so much in the early days. You're
just doing your own thing.
I was very focused on creating something. I think that's what it is. I wanted to create something, and I just felt intuitively that I had a product. I felt intuitively that I had a product. And I got, when I say the universe throws something at you, I was in a random store one day, and I think it was a customer was there, and she was looking at my necklace, and she said, you know, that's like an interesting piece. You should go. Henry Bendel's on Fifth Avenue, which I'm sure you remember.
Yes.
That iconic, beautiful store on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
They had an amazing concept. They would, what they called open sea. They would invite, I think twice a year, you would see a long line on Fifth Avenue all the way down the block, and they would invite young designers out of nowhere. Anybody could come. It was free for all. You could go there, you could stay in line, and you would wait and see the buyer, the accessories buyer. And if she liked your pieces, she would look at them, and she was very deliberate, I believe, and she would, if they liked the product, they would invite you to either, they would place an order, or they invite you to show it in their store. So I thought this was an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought maybe.
Yeah.
Again, so But like standing in line on Fifth Avenue at 6 a.m. in the morning was,
You're not a morning person.
baby in my arms. Not so good.
Oh, wow.
So I picked up the phone and I looked up Henry Bendel's and I asked to speak to the accessory, right, which would never, 5 years later, this would never have happened.
Right.
But everything was easy in those days, relatively, it felt. Now it does. And she came on the line and I said to her that, I told her my story. I said, I have a beautiful collection and I'd love to show it to her, but that I had an infant and I was nursing the baby and I couldn't come to that open sea. And she was very nice and she said, no problem, just send us a sample range. Well, I had no idea what a sample range was. I said, sure, of course. So there was no real internet at the time. There was, I kind of asked around and I basically put a few pieces on a tray. I think I even wrapped up the tray and did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And sent them over, and of course I never heard back, and I was pretty devastated. But so I continued my little home business, and maybe 3 months later, it was a long time, I got something in my inbox from her, which was crazy.
Wow.
I think back now, they probably just needed somebody for that weekend. They probably had a gap in their schedule.
Wow.
And what she asked me to do, she said she liked the pieces, and while they couldn't make a purchase order right now, what they threw out me was, would I come and do a trunk show in their store for the weekend? And she gave me a few dates. And what that is, you basically, it's like a pop-up in their store. You come for 3 days, you sell your merchandise, they get the retail, you get the wholesale, which was 3 times the amount. So if you're selling something for $10, you get the 10, they get the 30, or vice versa.
Right.
You're selling.
Right.
You're there. It doesn't matter.
Right. You're getting your name out, getting the word out.
And obviously your wholesale price is more than your cost, right? You always got to be focused on those margins, always.
Wow.
You don't sell if you're making $0.
So now I just want to fast forward a little bit, and I want you to talk about how you got to your store in Wheatley Plaza. And then also I want you to tell me about the time you were on the Oprah list, because to me, that's like the penultimate of, wow, like I've made it. Or for me, maybe it wasn't for you, but I want you to tell the story.
There were a few pivotal moments in my life, I believe, in my career, I would say. One of them was probably getting to Henry Bendel's and starting my business that way. A second one was doing these trunk shows at Henry Bendel's. I ended up doing them regularly, probably once a month. And I ended up meeting the buyer from Neiman Marcus. That was a huge change in my business because they ended up really liking what we had, our collection, and I literally got a call one day and at home, of course, because everything was home. I had no studio. Everything was and,
in your attic?
In my attic, in my tiny little attic with my little pliers. And I got a call from the buyer, the accessory buyer of Neiman Marcus.
By the way, when you say attic, like I think this dark little space where you can't even stand up.
Honestly, it was not much taller than that.
Can't you see the jewelry?
Yeah. And I get the call and she's like, we love your collection and we want to make an order. And they made an order there on the phone. So that was a pivotal moment.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that's when I felt like I was in business because.
And how far into your journey was that?
Probably, I would say I did those little home stores maybe for a year. Maybe I did Henry Bendel's trunk shows maybe this was 6 months into my time at Henry Bendel's, maybe. So pretty fast.
Wow.
Pretty fast. Once I got into Neiman Marcus, because in those days when you got into a retail and you got into a big chain store, it was almost like a strategic partner in a way. I mean, they marketed you, they put out ads for you sometimes. I mean, they were behind you. It was a partnership. And that really propelled me forward. And that brought me into what they call showrooms. I ended up are you familiar with the term showroom?
I am. I don't know if everybody else
What
is.
happens in a showroom is it's basically sales reps. They take they take maybe 10 to 20 collections. They represent you, and they have access to the retailers. Because as a young designer,
like a broker almost between the store and the designer.
Exactly.
And they rep a bunch of different jewelry lines. They take pieces. You put it in the showroom. Now, do you pay rent for that?
Yes, you pay rent. And they represent you, and they also
take a cut from the jewelry that they sell.
Exactly.
Got it.
So that was my next step on my journey. I ended up joining a fantastic showroom. It really was. They had access to the best retailers.
Amazing.
And I got into Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom, and that really propelled me forward. And so that, I think those were pivotal moments for me. And that changed my whole business. It became a real business.
Right.
And there, getting onto Oprah's list was fantastic. Twice.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that was amazing. And that,
Wow. And then how'd you end up in Wheatley Plaza with a store?
So the Oprah thing helped me. I think it got me a lot of recognition, I think even locally. I ended up deciding that I wanted to have my own brick and mortar store. I'd always wanted it.
Was that your dream?
It was a little bit of a dream. It was a little bit of a dream.
I feel like everybody has that. Like they want their name on something. They want to just own something.
Yeah, and it always felt like, it felt manageable. Don't forget, I still had 3 young kids at home.
Right.
And I wanted something
And
manageable.
you have a website.
Yeah, I've always had a website. I mean, in the early days, I mean, I barely had a website in the early days. There was no social media. I mean,
no social media.
E-commerce was barely there, right? So in order to sell, your only access to your consumer was through big retailers. You had no access to your consumer, right, other than a pop-up at a Henry Mandel kind of situation.
Right.
So, yeah, I always wanted a brick and mortar. What I did was I did some pop-ups. I did some temporary leases. I did one in the Hamptons, which was fantastic. It was actually my first store, pop-up store. Like, it was a 3-month pop-up.
Like a trial.
Yeah, trial. And that gave us, we built a store. We had a concept for how we wanted the store to look. It's very gallery, you know my store. It's very gallery-like. It's very friendly.
And it's in Wheatley Plaza.
Well, now it's in Wheatley, but we've always had the same vision for the store. It's all the same look. We replicate every store we've been in. So we've had like 5 or 6 pop-ups, and it's always pretty much looked the same.
Nice.
So
that's easy for business also. So you have like a little.
We want to have
consistent branding and logo and all of that.
You know that better than me.
And what's it like being in Wheatley Plaza with like other?
So it's
businesses?
fantastic. It's fantastic having access to the consumer. We did trial and error. So we had a few pop-ups. We had one in West Hampton. We had one in the mall, which was not great for us. We're not a mall brand, and we learned that very fast. And we had one in Greenwich, Connecticut, which was fantastic, but a little far for me.
Didn't you have one in Manhattan also?
Yeah, we also had one in Manhattan, actually. I forgot about that. So we tried, but Wheatley Plaza just felt like the best fit for me and for my lifestyle. Again, I had young kids now at that stage, were probably teenagers, and I wanted the flexibility. You know, there's always been 2 drivers. One is financial, of course. Another one is having flexibility to be around for my kids.
That's beautiful.
So,
how many years are you in business?
20.
Wow.
It's a long time. 10 years in my brick and mortar in
10 years in Wheatley Plaza? That's amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
And so you're wearing Susan Hanover jewelry now?
Oh, yeah. This is a lapis piece with a diamond.
And so we didn't even talk about, like, is it real? Is it faux?
We do both.
You do both. Okay.
We have a small real line, but affordable. We're very price conscious.
Where does it start? Yeah. What does it go up to?
Our fine jewelry line, I would say our fine jewelry line probably starts in the 500 range and probably low thousands, like single digit thousands.
And the other kind?
And then we have amazing fashion jewelry that we source amazing stones.
I saw some that you put up here.
We do our geodes. You can see our geodes. All our stones are very carefully and deliberately sourced.
Beautiful.
And crafted. I mean, we have access to really good craftsmen.
And who's your customer or your ideal customer? Like, who normally comes to the shop?
I'd say 95% women.
Women. The men are not coming to buy for the women. The women are just coming.
They do on occasion. We'll get a Mother's Day. We'll get around holiday.
But I guess because it's affordable, the women can just come in, not have to.
It's very much an impulse buy store, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah. But it feels elevated. It feels like when you buy something in our store, I feel like you walk out of it thinking you got value. It does feel, you got something beautiful. We all respond to beauty, and it's a pretty store, and I feel most people walk out of there with a smile on their face.
That's amazing.
And that's our goal.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And so we didn't even hit on it, but was there a time where you wanted to quit or no?
No.
You never even entered your mind?
Never entered my mind. No. Wow. I mean, we've had hardships. We definitely have had hardships. You asked earlier what was the biggest hardship. I think post-2009 was a real pivot in...
And that because of the market crash?
Yeah. Retail completely changed after... I'd say around 2009, 2010. We were very reliant on the big national brands. And that was the only way we got it's the only way we're able to build a brand, right? Because there was no real e-commerce at the time. There was no social media. There was no iPhones. So the only way to really build a brand was through a national store like a Neiman Marcus or a Bloomingdale's. And they became as a young designer, they were your strategic partner. But post-2009, 2010, they were not open to, I believe, they weren't open to young designers anymore. It was too much of a risk.
Did they drop you?
Pretty much dropped, yeah. I mean, all their orders became tiny. So what happened to a lot of young emerging designers just went out of business at the time because some of them were stuck with merchandise and there was no...
Like chargebacks? Like they gave the merchandise back and said,
well, no, they maybe canceled PO orders.
Oh, they
which are purchase orders,
right.
Or maybe they were expecting purchase orders and they'd gone into production. I mean, sometimes you have to do mass production. You can't do small production. They were, I don't know if you remember the flash sales. Do you remember Gilt at the time? I mean, they're still around.
Yeah, sure.
That was a way. There was a way for a lot of designers to get rid of more merchandise at very low prices.
Right.
But I mean, and I understand the chain store mentality that they had to rely on entrenched brands like a David Yurman, which is already recognizable, right? Why take the risk on a small emerging brand,
right,
which may not sell through on the shelf?
And so is that what made you go to the pop-up? Or
that's what made me change, because I found myself very reliant on mom and pop stores or the little individual stores throughout the country, but they were suffering too. And they were also reinventing themselves and cutting back. And I looked at my sales and my trade shows, which we were reliant on. We were doing trade shows all the time. And the numbers are just not what they used to be. And I don't see them coming back anytime soon. And they never did. So scary. If you look at the department stores today, I mean, they limp versions of what they were before.
Well, they say now that, you know, PR is now the brick and mortar and the online is
100%.
The retail is where you're making the sales. It like kind of
That's exactly true. It's like
but you need both. In a way, right?
I still believe people love the experience of walking into a store.
Definitely.
Especially our generation and older, of course. But, you know, so that definitely was a pivot. And that's when I had my goal of eventually wanting to have my own store.
Wow. Susan, this was so much fun. I've been wanting to do this for so long.
Me too.
And so thank you so much for coming on my show.
Me, Estee.
And I really appreciate you. And that's it. I just want to say thank you. And welcome to Small Business, Big Dreams with Estee Stein. And hopefully you'll come back again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Estee. I've known you for so long.
I know.
This has just been a treat.
I know. So do you want to tell anybody like where the store is exactly if people want to come find you?
Yeah, I'd love to. Our store is in Wheatley Plaza, which is in Greenvale. It's very close to Bar Fried and Lazar's Chocolate. It's right on that section of the strip. And definitely introduce yourself. And you're
always there,
I'm
right?
always there, usually.
What are your hours?
11 till 5. And weekends. We're there Saturday and Sunday as well.
Oh, nice.
So definitely pop in.
Okay. Well, I pop in sometimes too. Oh, and there's Starbucks down the block too.
And there's Starbucks.
Okay, that's good.
It's a great center.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Estee.
Okay.
Bye-bye.